Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Leighanne and I talk about books. Today we are doing my year-end survey. So there's a couple different parts to this. First part, I'm just going to talk about statistics, how much I read, how many pages, blah blah blah, all the things that I'm sure that you're not really interested in, but I just kind of want for my own record. And then the second part of this is going to be the actual year-end survey part. And pretty much what this is a blog post that was originally made by the Perpetual Page Turner, where it's pretty much just varying questions about your year-end books, favorites, least favorites, that kind of deal. And though I actually had not found the post on the Perpetual Page Turner blog, I did find this on Books and Lala's channel. I will link the original blog post and Books and Lala down below. So let's just jump right into it. So 2016 was actually a pretty good year for me, especially considering the fact that I did not really start reading until May. So from May to December, I read a total of 44 books. This came out to 11,626 pages. Now, of those books, they were varying formats. I read 11 books in print, and by print, I mean this could be a physical book or it could be an ebook as well. I read 18 books that were a combination of both print and listening to the audio together. And I read a total of 15 books exclusively on audio. Of those 44 books, 7 of them were rereads and had an average rating of 3.8 stars. When we break down the star ratings, I had 9 books that were rated as 5-star, 21 books rated as 4-star, 10 books rated as 3 stars, and 4 books rated as 2 stars. So looking at that, it kind of seems like 4-star rating is my kind of default. You know, if I like something and I didn't love it, but it wasn't like super middling, I guess. And I did read a lot of books like that this year. There really weren't very many books that I read that I hated. And actually, I really don't think that there were any books that I like truly hated this year. There were just some that just weren't all that great for me. So okay, so now we're gonna get to the actual year-end survey part, and this is a collection of 30 questions. I am not going to do all of the questions because some of the questions I just didn't really know what I would choose for that. I kind of did the whole pick and choose thing of which questions I wanted to answer. So I'm gonna go through a total of 18 questions. I'm not gonna go through and find these books in my bookshelves because my bookshelves are kind of in some order right now, so I kind of don't want to destroy them finding all of these books. Not to mention, I honestly have a lot of repeats on this. So let's go ahead and get started for the year-end survey. Number 1 was best book of 2016. I did a whole video, my top 6 in 2016. I will link that if you so desire to watch it. But my favorite books this year were actually tied with The Color Purple by Alice Walker and Under the Udala Trees by Chinua Ochipanta. A book you were excited about and thought you were going to love, but you didn't. And for me, this was the entire Miss Peregrine's trilogy. The first book showed promise, and I liked that one okay. It wasn't like this amazing book that everybody had like built it up to be for me. And then books 2 and 3 just tanked. Originally, when I did my wrap-up videos, I basically had said that I'll give them 3 stars, and that's just being, you know, more generous than I wanted to be. And after I started thinking about it, I bumped those both down to 2 stars. I did not enjoy them for several different reasons. I wanted to really love them and I didn't. And I thought to myself, why am I going to give these books more stars than, you know, what I feel they deserve? That just seems stupid. Am I doing this because everybody else likes them and I don't, and I feel bad for that? Like, I feel like I'm supposed to like them, but I just don't. So number 3 was most surprising book you read. And for me, that ended up being Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This was another book that was included in my top 6 in 2016. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, you can watch that video. Number 4, book that you pushed the most people to read. And this was actually one of my most recent reads, which is really funny to me that I'm, you know, using this as an example. But that book for me was definitely The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I finished it at the end of December, or not the end of December, it was like the middle of December maybe. And like every single person that will listen to me talk about it, I've been like, listen, I need you to read this book. Like, I understand if you've seen the movie, but I need you to read this book because I just need you to do it. Like, even people in my life that don't read, I'm like, listen, just do this thing. Number 5, best series you started, best sequel, or best series ender. For me, all 3 of these go to the Percy Jackson and Olympians series. And that's because that's actually the only series that I read this year. Everything else was mostly standalones for me this year. Percy Jackson and the Olympians actually does go for all of those categories for me. I really, really loved that series. I pretty much loved everything about it. I'm not gonna lie. The way that the series ended too, I really appreciated. Favorite new author that you discovered? For me this year, that was a lot of different authors because I did kind of step outside of my comfort zone in a lot of different ways, and I did open myself up to read a lot of new authors that I hadn't read before. Rick Riordan was one of them. I had never read anything by Alice Walker. I had never read anything by Chinelo Okparanta, but I would say favorite new author was probably Chinelo Okparanta, and unfortunately there's only one other thing that I can read by her that she's released, but she's definitely become like an insta-buy author for me, so anything else that she releases I will probably end up reading. Number 9, most beautifully written book, and that was definitely The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This was one of those books that I was like, I've had this since it came out, and why did I wait so long to read it? Because it was so beautiful. And it's actually a book that I can definitely see myself rereading because there's so many different nuances in it. And again, just the writing is so beautiful that it just transports you to this place, and because of that, it was actually also included in my top 6 in 2016. Number 10, most thought-provoking book. This is again a tie between The Color Purple and Under the Udala Trees. Both of those books were, I don't want to say outside of my comfort zone because I do read a lot of different things, but they were unlike anything that I have ever read before, and because of that, like, they're books that I am still thinking about. Here it is in January, and granted I did just read them last month, but I feel like both of those books are books that I'm just going to kind of carry with me. They are books that have really opened my eyes, and I have added so many new books to my TBR for the coming year because of reading these books. So that's why they were the most thought-provoking books on this list. Number 11, book that you can't believe you waited until 2016 to read. And I already mentioned this, but it's definitely The Night Circus. And you know, I mentioned why. So number 12, favorite passage or quote. I do not have a single one. There were a lot of books that I read this year where if you go into the highlights and annotations section in my note, then you'll see like all of these different passages and all of these different quotes that I highlighted. Some of the most memorable ones that are sticking out in my head actually come from The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, American Gods by Neil Gaiman, and The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland by Catherine Involante. Those 3 books just are what stick out in my mind whenever I hear that question. Number 13, shortest and longest book. The shortest book was The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I gave that book 2 stars. I hated it. And the longest was American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I think that one came in like right at under 600 pages. Next one is best world building or most vivid setting, and once again this goes to The Night Circus. I already talked about why. I'm not going to go into more detail. I just loved it. Book that was the most fun to read, and that for me was definitely the Percy Jackson series. I devoured this series. I loved it. It was so fun. I loved the mythology aspect of it. You know, I loved the characters. I loved the world building. I loved everything about it. And it was something that after reading things like The Color Purple and Under the Udala Trees, books that really like stayed with me and really like affected me on an emotional level, it was nice to be able to kind of turn to those and, you know, just have it. It's fun. It's campy. It's just good, quick, take your mind off of, you know, whatever is on your mind reads. So number 17, book that made you cry. There were only 2 books that made me cry this year, and because I'm not a very emotional person, but The Color Purple was one of them. I mentioned in I think 2 different videos how that book made me ugly cry, so here it is in the 3rd one. And the other one was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. There was just a moment at the end of that book that it was just like, my heart cannot, I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but I really loved that book. It was wonderful. And the last question was the book that made you the most mad, and this honor goes to Hollow City and Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs. Like I said, I kind of enjoyed the first one in the series, Miss Peregrine's, but by the time we got into book 2, there were some plot devices and there was some relationship development between characters that it was just like, why the fuck are you doing this right now? This has no business being in here. And then just the use of extremely convenient plot devices, and I just did not appreciate either of those things. The only thing that I'll say for Hollow City was that the ending of it definitely made me want to continue to read the 3rd book, but the 3rd book didn't redeem the series for me, unfortunately. I talk a little bit more about those things in my December wrap-up video if you want to watch them, but there it is. So that was my year-end survey. I read some really great books this year. Unfortunately, most of the books that I read were towards the back half of the year. The first half of the year for me was very middling. There weren't a whole lot of things that I read in there that I really, really loved. So it was a lot of repeats on the year-end survey. So sorry about that. But we're in January and it is the start of what is going to be a beautiful year. It's the start of what's going to be a beautiful year reading-wise. So I'm really excited to see where this year takes me from a literary standpoint. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate those of you that have stuck around with me through the extreme awkwardness that is myself, and I want to thank you all for watching any video that I have ever put out. I am constantly amazed that there are people that comment on these videos, that there are people that watch these and actually care about what I have to say. So again, thank you all so much, and I will see you all next time.